Observances will be held tomorrow at the Pentagon. Friends and family of those who died a year ago have been invited to attend, but security is very tight.
Channel 8 Eyewitness News is live with I-Team reporter George Knapp at the Pentagon. George.
John and Polly, we're broadcasting to you from inside a portable arena set up to accommodate the hordes of visitors, family members, loved ones, survivors, and hordes of media who will be here for tomorrow's observances. As you might expect, that many people gathered on such an auspicious anniversary at this particular location might make for a fairly inviting target. As has been reported, the nation's on an orange alert status. Nowhere is that more obvious than in and around Washington. The Pentagon is surrounded by armored vehicles, Hummers, and machine guns. In Washington itself, security measures in full view everywhere you go. Extra precautions being taken around the White House, for blocks around the White House, in fact. There are concrete barriers and armed men around virtually all the national monuments in Washington, and inside Capitol Hill, very strict security measures inside and out. We spoke today with Nevada Senator Harry Reid, the majority whip, who was given a classified briefing this morning by the CIA. In fact, our interview was temporarily postponed for that reason. We asked Senator Reid if he had any solid information about the nature of the current threat or the reason for the heightened alert.
George, as we speak, we have 3 of our embassies around the world closed. All agencies in our government are high alert, but there's no question we're more secure than we were. But we're not safe by any stretch of the imagination. When the president said there's a war out here, he's telling the truth. There is a war. Bad people are out there. And we haven't been real successful. Mullah Omar is someplace we don't know. Osama bin Laden is probably not dead. We have the terrorist cells around the world that we're trying to infiltrate. It's been difficult to do that. We're making a little bit of progress here and there, but you know, this operation is alive and well.
Threats or no threats, the observances will go on tomorrow. All sorts of events and speeches and gatherings are on the schedule for tonight, tomorrow, and beyond. A couple of minutes ago, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld walked by to check out the Pentagon and the progress preparations for tomorrow. Also, there's a contingent of Nevadans who have come here for the observances tomorrow. We'll be reporting more on those tonight at 5 and 6. Reporting from the Pentagon, George Knapp, Channel 8 Eyewitness News, live.
George, you're talking about all the security there. What about individuals? Are they stopping individuals? You're obviously a member of the media, but are they checking members of the media?
Oh, they're checking everybody. I mean, like I said, they've got guys in Hummers with machine guns on top all the way around a perimeter around the Pentagon. They're stopping everybody, maybe especially the media, and probably for good reason.
All right, George Knapp reporting live from Washington. Thanks, George.
Channel 8 Eyewitness News will continue to have complete live coverage of the September 11th anniversary tonight and tomorrow. Anchors Gary Waddell and Paula Francis will have more live reports from Ground Zero, and I-Team reporter George Knapp will report live from Washington, D.C.
Of course, the terror attacks also happened at the Pentagon. That is where our George Knapp is reporting live. George.
Arena similar to what they used to build for Las Vegas boxing events, outdoor events, has been installed here to handle the throngs that are expected. Security is very tight for the events to be held both here at the Pentagon and throughout the Washington, D.C. area. We talked with Senator Harry Reid today. He told us he had been briefed by the CIA and that in his opinion there are very good reasons for the heightened security status, the heightened security alert. Among the thousands who are going to be on hand here tomorrow, a contingent from Las Vegas. They're here to honor a fallen colleague and also to help support a worthy cause.
The building collapsed. Part of the building collapsed. But right now we just had a middle section here of the E-ring of the Pentagon collapse.
In the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, Americans, frustrated by their inability to do much of anything about the disasters, turned to blood banks. In Las Vegas, more than 2,000 donors visited United Blood Services, some standing in line for hours. Many donated because they simply wanted to do something, others out of respect for the victims, and some because in the early stages it was feared there would be a huge need for blood, especially in New York.
United Blood Services, along with all the other blood donors, stood there with all the blood supply in hand, waiting for New York to call. Unfortunately, the call never came because there weren't that many people that survived. Over 2,000 units that was derived after 9/11 that lasted 6 days.
So many people donated blood in the days immediately following the attacks that United Blood Services had to turn some away, but asked donors to return at a later date. 85% of those who promised to return did so, but very few kept coming, which means that a year later, Las Vegas is once again a net importer of blood. For UBS, the anniversary of the terrorist attacks is a chance to reconnect with the public. UBS has created what it calls the Chain of Life program. Those locals who donate blood will receive a ribbon with the name of a victim of 9/11 on one side. Donors can then look up the name of the deceased on a website and learn about that person's life. Ceremonies honoring the Chain of Life program will take place on September 11th, both in New York and at the Pentagon. Among the Nevadans who will participate is Nellis Air Force Sergeant Kim Walters, who was in the Pentagon on the day of the attack, and Shannon Daigle, a teacher at Palo Verde High. Daigle was the best friend of Barbara Edwards, a popular language teacher at Palo Verde. Edwards was a passenger on Flight 77, the airliner that smashed into the side of the Pentagon. UBS hopes the Chain of Life program will give Nevadans a poignant reason to donate once again.
And that it's a way of people expressing themselves and saving lives simultaneously. I think that's a big thing. Why not, when you remember someone that died, when you see that actual name, when you pull it on the website, you can see what their life was about, and at the same time saying, I saved someone here in Las Vegas. I can't think of a better reason to participate in the Chain of Life.
It's fair to say that some of the people who made the pilgrimage here are a little bit apprehensive about what's going to happen today, about how they're going to feel. They know it's going to be an emotional process. They know it's going to be an emotional experience. Certainly the Las Vegas contingent feels that way. The military even seems a little bit apprehensive, but from what we've seen, both of the work that's been done on the refurbished, rebuilt Pentagon and on the preparations that have been made around this in the event of any kind of trouble, they seem to be pretty much ready for anything.
We continue our live team coverage of 9/11, the day that changed America. Channel 8 I-Team reporter George Knapp joins us live from Washington, D.C. George.
Hey, how you doing? If you've been watching the various broadcasts today, you've seen an assortment of very public ceremonies, commemorations here at the Pentagon. President Bush, of course, made a sort of a pep rally kind of a speech, a call to arms to the United States military forces. Also, the Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, praised those who lost their lives here 1 year ago today. Also praised those who helped to rebuild the Pentagon in such a short period of time. In addition to these very public events, there have been untold numbers of private ceremonies and events, much smaller events, for the families of those who lost their lives a year ago today. And although there's an army of media outside the Pentagon today, access to the inside of the Pentagon has been very limited. We, however, that's primarily for the families who've been holding some very intimate sort of ceremonies inside the courtyard of the Pentagon. We managed to get inside the Pentagon for an extensive tour because we accompanied a group from Las Vegas. That group included Las Vegan Shannon Daigle, who was the best friend of Barbara Edwards, the Las Vegas high school teacher who lost her life aboard American Airlines Flight 77, smashed into the side of the Pentagon. Sergeant Kim Walters of Nellis Air Force Base also joined us a year ago today. She was stationed here at the Pentagon when the attack occurred. This was her first look back at the building that she used to call home. Also accompanying us, executives of United Blood Services. They were here to make a special presentation to the Air Force, what they call Chain of Life. They're hoping to instill in Las Vegans the same sort of spirit about giving blood that was in evidence last year after the events of September 11th. They made that presentation just a short time ago as part of our tour inside the Pentagon. And our group, some were moved to tears, some were sort of speechless. All of them were very worried about how they were going to react when they got here. As we mentioned, I just got out of the Pentagon about 15 minutes ago. We're going to have videotape and show you some pictures from inside there and the reactions of the Las Vegas group tonight at 4, 5, and 6. Reporting live from the Pentagon, George Knapp, Channel 8 Eyewitness News.
Okay, thank you very much, George.
Thank you, George.
Well, ceremonies and services also took place today at the Pentagon.
Channel 8 I-Team reporter George Knapp was there and joins us now live from Washington, D.C. George.
Michael and Polly, we're coming to you one more time from the Pentagon here. Earlier, thousands of people were here in this area. They've all gone home, long gone. It's after 2 o'clock here. The only folks left, a couple of reporters and a handful of photographers as well. We've heard a lot of stuff about the Pentagon, facts and figures over the last couple of days. One little odd bit of trivia, not widely known, left over that perhaps you haven't heard. Construction of the Pentagon began back in 1941. The day the construction began was September 11th. It took 16 months to build the whole darn thing back then, all 6.5 million square feet. Took 11 months to rebuild it after the attacks of 9/11 last year. Memories of that terrible day will linger forever for those, including the Nevadans who were here last year and this year.
I failed to tell you that when we were ordered out of S-208, as we left, look out one of those windows, you could see the smoke billowing from the Pentagon. We knew it was Pentagon. We know where the Pentagon is located.
Nevada Senator Harry Reid was already in the process of being evacuated from the Capitol when the Pentagon was hit. As part of Senate leadership, Reid was evacuated to a classified location as the second plane crashed in New York. He recalls the surreal experience.
We're told we have to, we're leaving. People are moving us. And I can remember one of the real surreal parts of my life is being brought by car to the west front of the Capitol where the helicopters were there, where the helicopter was there. And getting out of the car, and there were, I don't know where they came from in such a short period of time, but scores of people in black uniforms with their guns at ready on the west front of the Capitol. And they put us in the helicopter and off we went to this classified location.
Along with other Americans, Reid grieves for the lives lost in New York and at the Pentagon, but he thinks most often about the passengers who died in Pennsylvania. That plane was bound for the Capitol, his office.
I think we all look to the people in Pennsylvania who took that plane down, in effect, each one of them knowing that would be their death. But for me, it's really a special act of heroism because it saved my life, more than likely, and all my staff here in the Capitol, and the untold numbers of other people who were here.
NELA Sergeant Kim Walters wasn't sure she could handle a return to the Pentagon where she was working 9/11 last year, but she was happy to make the trip, seeing the rebuilding effort.
It's back in shape. People are moving. People are smiling today, and that's good.
Find it amazing they're able to do this in such a short period of time?
No, we're America.
United Blood Services of Las Vegas presented its Chain of Life to the U.S. Air Force, each ring representing a blood donation. UBS hopes Nevadans will remember what it felt like last year and that they'll donate again. And Las Vegas high school teacher Shannon Daigle found the name of her best friend, Barbara Edwards, on a monument at the impact site.
I wasn't going to come. I had really mixed feelings about coming, basically because I knew how emotional it would be. I think I'm glad I came for a little bit of closure.
You know, it's really been an unbelievable, unforgettable experience to be here at the Pentagon this week, to hear the stories of the families of the Nevadans who were here and who've suffered losses and who knew that this day, this remembrance, this observance was coming and was necessary, who obviously will never forget the lessons of this tragedy, but maybe can leave here with a sense that now, at last, it's time to move on. Reporting live from the Pentagon, George Knapp, Channel 8 Eyewitness News.